You just said it right there. I'm telling you, Star Wars does not have MCU-style multiverse. Ahsoka died in our timeline and wouldn't be magically revived by saving a different version of Ahsoka from another timeline.
Yeah, he just takes her out of time for literally minutes and then puts her back, right? It's literally because you see Vader walking away after, and she's walking into the temple, and Morai is flying in to follow her. Right, like that. It wasn't a bunch of time later. She literally jumped back to her timeline in real time, and so did Ezra. So like the world between worlds is like neutral time.
What does this mean for Vader?
So here's something that maybe helps. This is the way I view the world between worlds. Not to dismiss the Vader thing for a second, but like, there's like a book. I believe it's called like Flat Worlders or Flatliners, something like that. Basically, it's talking about dimension. So like if you think about if you were a two-dimensional being, the way you would see like a three-dimensional object like a balloon, it would start as a because all you don't see the depth of a third dimension. So you would see a single point of the balloon, and then it would become a circle, and it would come back to a point, because you're seeing a three-dimensional object pass through the second dimension. For us as three-dimensional beings, the fourth dimension is considered time. So it would be like if you were a fourth dimensional being, we would see like Xwing right now from inception to his death, all as this massive string of his life.
What did he say?
So what we're seeing is we're seeing your four-dimensional life pass through a third dimension. So that's why we see you age and progress, and we see these snippets of your entire time of your life. So I see the world between worlds as this place that exists almost in like a fourth dimension. It exists where you can see all time, but it can't change time. Mm-hmm. You can see it, and there's actually a way where like Ahsoka is, like Obsession said, she's literally pulled out of this space to where all of a sudden she has access to everything that has ever happened. And that's what these doors are. And she's placed back into a certain point in time. Mm-hmm. And so with that, that's why I don't think like you could go and necessarily change things. It becomes that paradox of like what happened in the world between worlds is like what's always happened.
Yes.
And we're seeing this snippet of time that it's like, okay, so that's how that happened, but we didn't know that.
Bro, what a good way to explain it. Thank you, because you illustrated what's in my brain way better than I did.
No, that totally, dude, that's a way,
right, and that's why
hire me, Disney, please.
That's why no time passes.
I'll take a remote salary of $600,000 a year.
Would be all over that. Right. Somebody hire Christopher Nolan now. Get Christopher Nolan in here.
I feel like the Emperor wants to not use it to necessarily take Anakin out of time and bring him forward. I feel like he wants to go and tell himself, much like Time Cop. That's why I brought it up. I think he wants to go back and just tell himself what's coming. Mm-hmm. Like, you cannot foresee what is coming. This is your downfall, right? And really like tell him what's what. Maybe have a Force lightning like, because they don't believe each other. And then him tell him, look, this is what's coming. When this happens, this is what you got to do. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown down the mouse hole and you're dunskies, right? So I feel like that's more of how the world between world could be used rather than, because Ahsoka said it, like, if you take Kanan out of time, you all die. Mm-hmm. That creates a paradox where you don't belong here.
Yep.
So the second you walk back into the physical world, you're a man out of time because you're technically dead, right? And so that's, they kind of touched on it a little bit, like, Ezra, you can't do this because you're all in that hover, in the ship. And if he's not there to protect you, your ship blows up and you're all dead.
So really, yeah, you're talking about basically, Jace, you're talking about the end of Interstellar, when he's seeing all possible realities at the same time and just affecting one of them.
But instead of it being like him, he has a path to each point in time. There's a doorway to each point, basically, in time, and you can see it and view it and maybe take like a person out of time, but ultimately that does affect the physical realm. That's
right.
Yeah.
This is what he did with gravity and the dust and everything.
And I think part of the whole thing with Kanan too is I think there are, I don't know if you want to call it laws, or there's this you can just say the Force. There's a binding will of the Force where you cannot change what has happened, because then that would mean that you weren't there to change what has happened. And so it's like the timeline is the timeline, but it does get to that place where you're like, you can't fully comprehend it, because otherwise you go into the realm of like the Butterfly Effect, that movie, where, you know, it's such a good movie. The sequels suck for the Butterfly Effect.
Sequels suck. The original was
they're so bad. But when he keeps going back and changing something, then like somebody else's life is screwed up. So then he's like, well, I'm going to go back and change that in their life.
Yeah.
And when it just keeps getting worse and worse. And sure, that would be cool in Star Wars, but then that was the whole point of the Butterfly Effect, is like, if this was possible, don't do this. And it's a tragedy.
The Force has will. It's the wills.
Yeah.
They work a certain way.
And it would be cool, like, if maybe they went down that road, if there was like an arc in some animated series or a comic book where somebody actually got access and tried to change something, and maybe all of a sudden we see this side of the Force and the wills where it's like they actually physically stop and restrain, and you know, you get some you can get some crazy like Superman,
all right,
like
this
prison, all this stuff.